Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly highlight on the From Cameras to Couches podcast. I, as always, am your host, Zach Davis.
And I am Emmy Davis.
And we are here to talk about one that we've had in the running for a little while now. You guys have been patient with us, and we appreciate the heck out of that. But we're finally doing our weekly highlight on the Silver Linings Playbook.
Woo! Excelsior!
This is a pretty hot movie. It's been a while since I'd seen it before I rewatched it for this, but it's really good stuff. It's going to be an interesting conversation because we'll do our usual bit, but I've actually included some more notes about just David O. Russell towards the end of this because I want to discuss that guy real quick, and I call him a guy because I'm trying not to be too explicit on this podcast right now. But basically we'll talk about the Silver Linings Playbook. I did that on the earlier episode too, but this is a pretty fun movie. Not really, but it's a great movie. It is a fun movie. It somehow manages to be fun. Yeah, definitely. Very engaging. This came out back in 2012. It was David O. Russell's pre-release to American Hustle, both of which, this movie and American Hustle, both went to the Oscars, just absolutely smashed. But this was
Jennifer Lawrence is in both, isn't she?
I don't think Jennifer Lawrence is in American Hustle. Maybe she is. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen American Hustle. But this was the big one that just like started a streak for him. Kind of continued a streak. He did have some pretty good stuff going on in his career at this point, but he picked this script up, which is an adaptation of a 2008 novel of the same name written by Matthew Quick.
She is in American Hustle. Sorry.
Okay. I honestly couldn't remember. I think I've seen American Hustle one time. And
I think I've
probably 8 or 9 years ago.
I think I've only seen the trailers, and it was like on a trailer of a DVD that we owned that we would watch a lot when we were kids.
Yeah.
And I think that I confused this and oh my gosh, Almost Famous a lot.
Yeah.
Just based on the trailers, because those were two that I didn't know what the heck they were until I was
for sure.
in my 20s,
just
really.
Stuff
just
that we never really investigated. That was all stuff that was always floating around but never got directly into
your
our
first
sphere.
Emmy sidebar of the day.
But yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty of Silver Linings Playbook. So this is a movie about family and football and mental health disorders.
And dancing.
And it's some pretty like tough subject matter. And the effectiveness of how it tackles that is debated, especially, I guess 12 years on from the release of this movie. But I still find it to be a very thoroughly enjoyable watch. So let's just start at the top. So after 8 months treatment in a mental health hospital for a bipolar, Pat Solitano Jr., who is played by Bradley Cooper, is released into the care of his parents, Patricio Sr., who's played by Robert De Niro, and Dolores. I can't remember who plays Dolores, but she's quite great. She's a perfect pairing with an aging De Niro. They go back to his childhood home in Upper Darby Township, Pennsylvania.
It's
Jackie Weaver. Thank you. His primary focus is reconciling with his ex-wife, Nikki. She has moved away and obtained a restraining order against him after Pat found her in the shower with another man and badly beat him. Pat, for this very reason, has been in a mental hospital for the past 8 months, recovering and working on exercising and properly being able to understand his BPD.
It's not revealed until like a little bit into the movie why Pat was in the mental hospital, but like that whole sequence, like there are just so many things like that build up. It's not only that his wife is cheating on him, but like their wedding song is playing. It's not only that his wife is cheating on him and their wedding song is playing, but he's like the substitute history teacher and she's sleeping with the tenured history teacher. Yeah. Like it's poor guy.
Yeah, so Pat's therapist, Cliff, tries to convince him to keep taking his medication because a repeat of his violent outbursts might land him back into the clinic, and he doesn't want to go there. So Pat tells him that he has like a new outlook on life. He's got this ability to see the good or the silver linings in any situations.
He has a new catchphrase, which is Excelsior.
Excelsior, ever higher. And he still continues to like experience panic attacks. He's very deeply like harmed by the relationship with his wife, but also like the bipolar on top of that just causes him to not
put together. Like he's a very
he can't like come to terms with his own emotions.
No, and like he's just always got some emotion flying off the spectrum.
Yeah. Pat attends dinner at his best friend Ronnie's house, where Ronnie's sister-in-law, Tiffany Maxwell, played by Jennifer Lawrence, a widow with an unnamed disorder, is also a guest. They connect. They talk about different psychiatric medications they've taken to manage their mental illnesses. She offers him casual sex, and he declines because he's still interested in getting his ex-wife back.
In this scene, they're both still wearing their wedding rings, by the way, because her husband has recently passed away, and Pat is still in his mind married to Nikki.
Tiffany finds out that she can interact with him more if she convinces him that she can get a letter to his ex-wife, because his ex-wife has a restraining order on him, so he has no communication with her. He agrees, and Tiffany starts practicing a dance routine with him as part of the agreement.
It's like if you get the letter to Nikki, then I'll do this dance thing that you always wanted to do that your husband would never do with you.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Patricio Sr. is reportedly illegally bookmaking. One thing we haven't talked about at the top, I did mention football at the top of this, but this is all surrounded by like this massive fandom for the Philadelphia Eagles. And this movie is kind of, in a way, allegorical to like the fandom of
average Eagles fan.
Yeah, and how
and the like superstitions swept away, and like you have to wear this jersey and you can't wash it and like all that.
Yeah, it's more of just like I guess sports fandom in general, but very much centralized around the idea of American football and the clubs and the ways that those are surrounded. I guess they're not clubs. I don't know why I'm trying to sound pretentious talking about football. Anyway, the whole deal with this is it's heavily themed around the Philadelphia Eagles being like a major part of the family lifestyle.
It's kind of like its own character in the movie.
Very much so. Very much so. So yeah, the father has been illegally bookmaking this whole time and having bet most of his money on a Philadelphia Eagles game. He's trying to open a restaurant. Patricio, the father, asked Pat to attend for good luck, irrationally believing Pat's attention to the game affects his outcome. His father is also like clearly very OCD, and he does it to appease his father. Pat asks Tiffany for time off from dance practice to attend the game. She gives him a typed reply from Nikki, which cautiously hints that they may be able to reconcile. She's also, completely made up this reply. Before entering the stadium to get into the game, Pat gets in a fight defending his older brother. And part of the big...
It's a tailgate fight.
The big conversation about him going to the game in the first place was, should we send an Eagles fan to a Giants game? The answer is no, because...
Thank you, Siri.
Siri just told me that also no. That's great. Yeah, so they tell him not to go to the game. Everybody's advising him against it, but his dad is like, you have to go to this because I have to win this game. So he goes to the game, he gets in a fight, he comes home from the game, he's escorted away by the police, and his dad is like furious with him because he didn't stay for the whole game. He didn't even get into the stadium.
It's kind of funny because, and obviously the Eagles lose this game, which just adds to his father's anger, but I think that if I'm not mistaken, his dad wanted to go to the game, but he was worried he was going to get in a fight.
Yeah.
Or no, he's banned from the stadium. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's banned from the stadium. I forgot because he was in a fight.
Yeah, he had previously been quite a mollywhopper himself at the Eagles games. So Pat comes home. He's escorted home by the police. I can't remember if his dad picks him up or what, but they get into an altercation at the house. Tiffany comes to the house and starts to tell Patricio off. She's like, you're superstitious. You're trying to read tea leaves in a bunch of these like wild ways, and basically you're just irresponsible with this, and you should not be letting this affect
your son. And
then
he accuses her of being the reason that the Eagles lost the game, and he's like, well, maybe if he wasn't spending so much time with you. And then she pulls out a list of every time they've spent, not like an actual list, but she just starts listing like
every
time
game that's been played.
She's like, the first time we met, this happened in this game, and this was the score, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
Love her in that moment. Which also, those are all real scores from the 2009 Eagles season.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, it frames the emotional state of the movie very well around like the season of the Eagles, which is never something that you should emotionally frame anything around. But that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, so the bookie returns to the house while they're having this altercation and tells Patricio to pay up. And Pat's like, well, let's do this. Let's do a 2-leg parlay.
Patricio, not Pat Senior, not Junior.
Yeah. He's like, let's do a 2-leg parlay. If you guys can get at least an average score of a 5 out of 10 at the dance competition, and the Eagles win next weekend.
If they beat the Cowboys.
If they beat the Dallas Cowboys, we make double back. If not, I pay you double. Yeah. So the parlay becomes like another reason for them to just perform at the dance competition. They start like growing closer through that, and eventually, when they get to the competition, Pat sees Nikki there. Nikki's been invited to come along. He finds out about Tiffany's making all of the letters that were supposedly being sent between him and Nikki. Gets pretty torqued about it. Tiffany does too. She goes to the bar. She gets very drunk. They end up going out and doing the musical number, and like the first several scores are just below average. The Cowboys have won at this point, so everybody's watching the dance like it's a football game,
like it's the Super Bowl.
And the dance number that they do ends up being like a fairly mediocre, if not
there's
flat
a few disastrous
dance number
moments
at all.
For sure. They try to do this lift that just goes completely awry.
Yeah,
and
it's bad and like very well choreographed to look very bad. Just in the frame of the movie.
That's something that I actually wanted to touch on briefly. Is the choreographer had a really difficult time teaching them professional dance moves, but how to make them look amateur.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't practice too much, almost.
Yeah, because Jennifer was saying that she's not a dancer at all, and she had to, like, try and figure out how to do all this. Anyway, so Tiffany's now disappointed because, of course, over the course of this, Pat and Tiffany have been slowly but surely falling for each other. And she sees Nikki in the crowd. So after the dance is over, they get their scores back, and they actually get over a 5. So
it's 5 exactly.
It's a perfect 5. So they win the parlay, they make the money back. Tiffany runs out of the building when she sees Pat talking to Nick. Pat chases her down and opens this letter to her that he had written several weeks before, basically telling her that he is completely infatuated with her. He loves that her crazy matches his crazy, so on and so forth. They kiss. They're shown the next Sunday at the football game, all together in the family household. The end. That's a pretty quick and glazing synopsis of the movie. I mean, I definitely didn't get into the emotional state of the characters as much, and there are some scenes that I skipped over, but that's why we have our favorite scene section coming up next. I do want to talk a little bit just about like the chemistry of the performances, because Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence are excellent in this movie. Jennifer Lawrence in particular, I think,
and it's great because they don't have they have that moment, and I'm not gonna talk about it too much because I want to talk about it in my favorite scenes where at that first dinner they kind of bond over like the different medications that they've been on, and they like have this awkward chemistry off the bat, but like the way that it develops is so interesting.
I really like, they are very, very good at being neurotic in this movie. I think it can certainly be debated, the true to form nature versus the dramatic nature of the performances, but I do think these are excellent. I'd also just think that Jennifer Lawrence is a better actor than Bradley Cooper all around. And that's not to say Bradley's bad, because he's very, very good in this one.
I think she's like one of those underrated, overrated actresses,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, has she done anything since No Hard Feelings?
I don't think she has.
She had a baby. She
had a baby at some point recently.
No Hard Feelings is like one of the boldest young female performances I've seen in a long time. She definitely
that is a fun movie.
A very, very fun movie. There's some really great scenes in it.
What an interesting movie.
It's a great 3 out of 5 comedy to just throw on and have a good time with. And they don't make stuff like that very often anymore, and it's just a real treat to see like a very Apatow era kind of movie like that. We've already talked about the football of Silver Linings Playbook. I don't know why I keep doing that.
You'll get it right one of these days.
Yeah, maybe. The football aspect of it is just a real joy. Very
these
great
people.
locomotion.
These people that are this obsessed with football and player.
They're talking about Deshaun Jackson and a bunch of people that names of, and it's very it's very cool to just see. It's very cool to see that characterized into a modern movie like this, because it just feels like familiar territory immediately, and not for everybody, but everybody knows somebody like that.
And like the fight scene at the Eagles tailgate it literally makes me think of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
when they do the tailgate at the Eagles game there, because it is so somehow akin to that chaotic. Like that's just the city of brotherly love, and
it's awesome. There are a couple of discrepancies
with the jerseys.
Which is something we'll talk about a little bit later. But
is that a Oh, you said we'll talk about it later. Never mind.
Okay, so let's move on to some favorite scenes and favorite quotes. I'm gonna start with one of my favorite scenes in this movie. Is probably the most like melodramatic scene in this movie, and it's when Bradley Cooper is trying to find his wedding video. And he's kind of like rampaging through his parents' house at like 3 a.m, and he's throwing stuff around and having a massive panic attack trying to find his wedding video. And it's just
and he ends up like, is this where he ends up like hitting his dad?
Yeah,
and,
he hits his mom.
Well, him and his dad are like getting into it, and then he like, I think she tries to pull him off.
And and then he hits her. Yeah, they get physical trying to calm him down, and the police come in, and they're like, "What's the disturbance here? Your neighbors have called in." It's a good scene, and it's honestly
it's very tense. Like it's just like whoa.
More, I have it down more for the reason that this is probably the scene I think of the most, aside from like the other two big scenes, which are the ending through the last like 15 minutes of or the dance recital through the last 15 minutes of the movie. But yeah, I just think about that one a lot. It's probably the one I think of the most from this movie, if nothing.
I think of their first not date at the diner, and I mean, obviously they have like the great bit about the Raisin Bran. Jennifer Lawrence has the iconic like, I guess I'm crazy, freak out, and just good stuff. And then he's
assaulting me.
Yes, she chases after her. They end up in front of the movie theater. She's freaking out. He's freaking out. And then, like, just the immediate regret once the cop gets involved on her part, because she's yelling that he's assaulting her. And so, like, these men are coming up to Bradley Cooper, and they're like, hey, like, what's going on? And a cop gets involved. And she's just like, no, I'm sorry, he wasn't doing anything. And, like, that's just so manic. And
which also involves her issues with her ex-husband, who was also a cop, and she talks about a lot of people surround the conversation around her. She basically, after her husband died, slept with every person in the office, and that's a big talking point of her character. So with that cop coming up and being like that is her like, okay, shutting it down. And it's just a wild sequence. I do love that conversation about the Raisin Bran, though. I have that in my favorite quotes, which is why did you order Raisin Bran? Why did you order tea? Because you ordered Raisin Bran. I ordered Raisin Bran because I didn't want there to be any mistaking that it was a date. It can still be a date if you order Raisin Bran. Just a really good little cafe sequence there. I really love that one.
I mentioned it earlier, but I also just love the scene where they have dinner for the first time, and well, not at the diner, but they're at her sister or her sisters, and they're literally like going back and forth talking about all these medications, and I can't remember which one it is, but he's like, "Oh my gosh, that one, I was like a robot." He's like, "I felt nothing," and like just the way that they were so casually talking about like.
And just like the horrified looks on the face. Not horrified, but just like stunned awkward, and wow, this is self-fulfilling prophecy looks on everybody's face at the dinner table.
It's great.
It's really good.
I love that scene.
The tailgate is obviously on my list of scenes too. I really love that. Very brief sequence more than it is a scene. Bradley Cooper reading Lord of the Flies in his bed and saying, "What the fuck?" and throwing it out the window. Great stuff.
In the same vein, him reading the Hemingway book in the very beginning, because he's reading his ex-wife's English syllabus so that he can impress her. He wants to like learn, like get all the knowledge that he can and come back to her and win her over again. And one of the books, I can't remember what Hemingway book it is, but he goes into his parents' room at like 3 a.m, and he is just like rambling to them about like how like he's like, this is just so upsetting, and he like just so like I feel that like that's how I feel when I can like consume some form of media and no one else that I know has seen or read it, and I just have to talk about it with somebody. Yeah. And I can't say I would ever go into my parents' room at 3 a.m. and talk to them about Ernest Hemingway, but I certainly have annoyed the heck out of people.
Yeah. I think that's the same. I can't remember. I think that's the same scene. It's been a little bit since I've watched the movie now, so I'm kind of trying to walk through it. But I think that's the scene where he throws it and it flies out the window, shatters the window, and then he goes into his parents' room.
Maybe it is, but I don't think it's Lord of the Flies.
It might not be. I might be misremembering. I remember Lord of the Flies is in that syllabus.
Yes.
Yeah. Pat going to the game and getting a fight. Tailgate is awesome.
That's like the third time we've mentioned it under best scenes. It's so good.
And Tiffany confronting Pat Sr. after the game, just her listing the games, talking about all the good things that have happened between them.
The second time we hung out, we went on a run, and the Eagles or like the Phillies beat something. She mentions like one baseball record, so she's like in it. Like,
and then she mentions one like Eagles versus Seattle game.
Yeah.
And like, she's like, and we lost that one because, well, whatever reason. But the Eagles won that game. Just a couple of like minor discrepancies in the seasonal thing. But still, I mean, I think that's just a good framework for a movie.
One of my last ones is there's this montage like where they're kind of like doing like they're figuring out the dance, and like you see like little bits and pieces of the routine as they're practicing and stuff like that, and it's just great. I love a good montage. Bring up Spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
This I was just looking at Best Picture from this year. It was The Artist. I hadn't even thought about that. I gotta rewatch The Artist because I've only seen it once. Have you ever seen The Artist? I can't remember.
I don't think
we watched that together. Yeah, it's the silent film from 2012 about the making of
silent films. I haven't seen that.
It's a pretty good one. I honestly don't remember much about it, but I'll have to give that one another shot.
What are your favorite lines from that?
Yeah, my favorite lines from The Artist are... Oh, I'm sorry, I put it up on the screen. I didn't realize you guys couldn't hear. Okay, I think that's all my favorite scenes, so I'll blast through some quotes real quick. One of them is when when Pat is talking to his therapist. I don't know why I wanted to say attorney. His therapist, Dr. Cliff Patel, and they're talking. He says, "Hey, my friend Ronnie is having this party on Sunday night, and it's like a real hoity-toity thing. And his wife Veronica's a real stickler for I don't know. My mom got this Gap outfit she wanted me to wear, but I want to wear a jersey that has my brother Jake got me from the Eagles." And the doctor says, "Which jersey?" And Pat says, "Deshaun Jackson." And Dr. Cliff says, I always just love his line reading of this. "Deshaun Jackson is the man." It's so awesome.
Pat goes, "Well, that settles it."
Yeah, that's just one of my favorites. Yeah, I honestly would do more of these quotes, but I'm trying to stay a little bit more clean on the podcast with my language, and there's a lot of sharp language in this movie. But
one of my favorites that has no sharp language, and it's just a little line, and it's mentioned twice, and the second time it kind of gets commented on, but almost every time like Pat Sr. and Pat Jr. start to get like a little bit into it on football Sundays, Pat's mom comes up and she goes, "I've got homemades and Krabby Snacks." And she says it twice, and the second time Pat goes, "Yeah, Dad, homemades and Krabby Snacks." And I like that's just my favorite.
It's when he's having like one of his moments of just like overexerting happiness because he's I think going to see Tiffany.
Yeah, he's about to go run, I think.
Yeah, and that's what it is. He's going to go on a run, and he
always
like, well, why are you so happy and that kind of stuff.
He always wears a garbage bag when he goes to run to help like lose weight, but it's just so funny because
garbage bag over the hoodie,
sweatpants, garbage bag.
Yeah, it's a classic move. I knew a lot of guys in high school.
Oh, I mean, I've known people to do that too, but I love it.
It's just funny. It's a great touch.
Anyways, homemades and Krabby Snacks. That's one of my favorites.
Homemades and Krabby Snacks rocks. Tiffany, when she's arguing with Pat and says, "Not that I give a damn about football or any of your superstitions, but if it's me reading the signs, I don't send the Eagles guy whose personal motto is Excelsior to a Giants game, especially when he's already in a legal situation."
This is after she's mentioned that the New York motto is Excelsior.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just pitch perfect little things like that. I love football. I'm Pat Sr., and I'll take that camera and I'm going to break it over your head, and then I'm going to come back and interview about what it's like to get a camera broken over your head.
That's great. One of my favorites is I mean, typically I feel like we go funny and then like a little serious, but this is a little romantic one that I like. It's at the very end when Pat's kind of professing his love to Tiffany. He says, "The only way that you can beat my crazy was by doing something crazy yourself. Thank you. I love you. I knew it the minute I met you. I'm sorry it took me so long to catch up. I just got stuck."
That's great.
That's so cute. It's his delivery of
thank you.
Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry it took me so long to catch up. I love it.
Really,
Aww.
really great ending sequence.
And they are just a couple manic guys, and they probably wouldn't last, if I'm being honest. Yeah. But maybe they got healthy together. Maybe maybe it worked out.
One can dream.
One can dream.
One can dream the Eagles will win the Super Bowl this year, too.
One can dream that the Chiefs don't.
Did the Eagles make the playoffs this year?
Yeah.
They did? Okay. I honestly have not been paying too much attention.
I just need hey, Bills, beat the Eagles. No, beat the Chiefs. Beat the Chiefs this week. That's all I need.
No, Patty and his pet zebras are too busy out there on the field.
I promise you. I was going to start talking about football. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. Okay, let's do some fun facts. Robert De Niro teared up during a scene where he tells Bradley Cooper that he wished he was closer to him, which was not scripted. Assuming, probably casting some relationship with his own son. Just a sad little moment in the middle of acting. Also, this is I'll do some of these fun facts, but at the end of it, I want to talk about David O. Russell more. So we'll talk about his directing style a little bit later on this. I cannot imagine that it was super fun to be on these sets all the time.
Okay, a couple of my fun facts. This movie was filmed in a short 33 days.
Yeah.
Whew. That's a tight schedule
for. You know what? Gia Coppola did it faster.
Well, but Silver Linings Playbook's a good movie.
Yeah, very true.
Also, Jennifer Lawrence auditioned over Skype. And
if that is not the most 2012 part of this movie, I don't know what is.
I
guess general production was probably 2011.
Kind of leading into that, just talking about auditions and stuff, there were a lot of actors and actresses in talks to be in this movie, including Zooey Deschanel and Vince Vaughn were a pair.
Zooey Deschanel would have been a bad miscast.
Can you imagine?
Oh, God.
Can you imagine her? She's just not built for that.
That would have been a legitimately poor career move for her.
And so they were looking at her and Vince Vaughn, and then, which I think Vince Vaughn...
Thank you. I love you.
Eagles fan for sure.
Yeah.
And then also Mark Wahlberg and Anne Hathaway.
Oh, God. Wow. Thank God we got the movie.
I'm so glad.
Yikes.
Respectfully, love all those actors.
Anne Hathaway in this role would be
I'm just trying to imagine
agonizing.
Zooey Deschanel doing the diner scene.
Yeah, I'd honestly, the Vince Vaughn thing has me hung up, but Mark Wahlberg, are we kidding?
This is one of those times I kind of, wish I had access to that alternate universe.
You don't know what I can do, who I'm going to do, who I want to be.
Honestly,
I have good things inside me.
His performance in that scene in Boogie Nights is pretty akin to Pat's behavior in this movie.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Definitely is. That's all I'm going to say about that. Aside from the fact that I genuinely think that Mark Wahlberg is a terrible actor.
Anyways, Flight Risk is out in theaters now.
Yeah, Flight Risk is out in theaters now. Mark Wahlberg's bald cap is on full display.
I'm going to see a movie tonight. I don't have one picked yet. But I was looking at what's available, and I saw Flight Risk, and I was like, maybe it's Flight Risk or Wolfman, because I can't make the presents tonight. And
I'll take care of the Mel Gibson directorial return.
Dude, I looked on Letterboxd to see what the reviews were like. It has 321 reviews. It doesn't even have an average rating yet.
Yeah, that's usually how they do until premiere night. I think they
I know, but
I would be shocked to see that movie at anything above a 2.8, but we'll see.
I guess I might be talking about it. Anyways,
we'll find out. Yeah, thank God Mark Wahlberg was not in this movie. The closing credits acknowledge the Budweiser productions of Anheuser-Busch Brewery, which is spelled Anheuser. It's misspelled in the credits. It's Annheuser. So it's Anheuser. Shout out to Miss Ann Hauser. Some Anne out there got a lovely shout out.
I think this is my favorite fun fact for this movie. The movie, so after the diner scene, when he chases her and they're kind of getting into it and she's accusing him of assault and all that in front of a movie theater, the movie on the marquee is The Midnight Meat Train and it's a 2008 movie starring Bradley Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And I
continuity
think
error.
I love that.
That's a continuity error right there. Shout out Bradley Cooper for being outside in a garbage bag at the same time that he's playing to thousands of screens across America. Okay, at the Eagles game, a fan can be seen wearing a Michael Vick jersey, which is a problem because Vick was not signed to the team in 2008.
Well, people be wearing old jerseys.
Yeah.
Wait, had he not yet been signed?
Been signed to the Eagles.
Okay, now I see what you're saying.
I think it was 2011 when he got signed.
Okay.
I might be wrong on that, but I honestly am worse with my football stats than I am with my movie stats. And if that says anything, hold your breath, which I will not be doing any more of. The movie received nods in all 5 big categories at the Oscars in 2012, a rare feat, which David Russell managed to repeat the following year with American Hustle.
Do you want to get into David Russell, or do you want to do double feature?
I want to do a quick talk about David O. Russell.
Get it.
So, this son of a bitch, David O. Russell
I'm going to clean up my language.
Yeah, I'm on one on this episode. So we're just going to talk about David O. Russell real quick. This guy's a real bastard in production. From several reports, he is quite. I don't know if eccentric is the right word, but he's far from a perfectionist, but is very. He just likes to make people's lives miserable. From what I understand,
it's like that AI video of Wes Anderson yelling on set.
Yeah, very, very asimilar to that. He's a pretty frustrating person to work with, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of examples of that. He's highly praised both critically and commercially, as evidenced by 2 movies back to back at the Oscars that both received nominations in all 5 awards. George Clooney called him a miserable bastard after working with him on Three Kings in 1999. They almost got into a fist fight on the set there.
Fisticuffs.
He assaulted Christopher Nolan at a party in 2003 and put him in a headlock.
Oh.
That was the same year that Memento came out, if I remember correctly. So a very interesting move to see this young, bold British auteur and put him in a headlock. Kind of analogous if you think about it with Hollywood, but
so is David O. Russell
a son of a bitch? Yeah, he is. He's got a real problem. Christian Bale had to intervene when he was demeaning Amy Adams on the set of American Hustle in 2013, and had to be like, you need to stop being an asshole because you're being an asshole right now, and you're doing it to people that can't defend themselves. And Amy Adams later in a interview was talking about Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook, and she was like, Jennifer Lawrence is Teflon and can absorb things like that. I am not. She was like, that was my biggest gripe with working with David, but she was like, I still see his vision and understand that he's a great director and that kind of stuff, but she was like, I probably won't work with him again, as have many people said that have worked with him. But he's also very successful until his most recent film, Amsterdam.
Yep.
Whoops. That was quite the falter there.
I mean, hey, if you're going to put Taylor Swift in a movie,
you might as well throw her under a car.
Those are going to be the next words out of my mouth.
I know too well.
All too well.
The 10-minute version.
Rachel's going to love that.
Yeah, hilarious. Here we are at 33 minutes. I'll see you at minute 43 after we finish listening to the 10-minute version of All Too Well. Which, for the record, is worse than the original.
It's not. But
this guy, David O. Russell, has got some issues. I'm not even giving you the opportunity. This guy's got some issues, and I just wanted to mention that sometimes these people are bastards, and their movies are recognized for.
Sometimes bad people happen to
be also very, very smart people that make good things. I condone all of his actions, no matter what. But if he makes good movies,
you condone all of his actions?
I do not condone all of his actions. I'm sorry, I'm getting all mixed up today.
It's a jumble day. We've had a week.
Anyway, so that is pretty much it on the fun facts part about David O. Russell
ramble. What do you got for double features? Did you get there?
I was trying to think of this over the course of the day, and I was trying to think of a movie that was similar to this. I don't know many romance core movies this that I could really pin down and put similar themes against.
Hi, I'm Emily Davis, and this is my niche.
I think what I landed on though was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Bingo-san.
Followed by Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes. Yes.
I think
very
that's
good.
The right combo.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my 2 that I put, because I feel like this movie falls into that almost you see the preview and you're like, oh, cute new romance rom-com kind of dealio, love it, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, that was a lot more than I thought it would be. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is very similar to that, as is, this was the first rom-com bamboozle I ever had, 500 Days of Summer. I was on a huge rom-com kick in high school, watched every rom-com ever made, and I ran out of them, and I was like, what next? And somebody recommended that movie to me, and I was like, cool, and I watched it, and I was like, that was not funny. What was that? I thought that they were going to end up happy.
No, it's a movie about horribly shattered minds.
Yes. As is this one, as is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
I think, hey...
That's kind of what I was landing on earlier when I was trying to think of something to pair with this, and I think that's a good one. I also think that this is very, very big recency bias, but The Apartment would be a good double feature with this. It's about two people that are more or less just like struggling with their. Jack Lemmon's character is very obviously more put together in this than Pat Solitano is. But I think that there can definitely be, there's definitely something to be said for a comparison between, Miss why can't I think? Kubelik.
Shirley MacLaine's
character. Yeah. And Jennifer Lawrence's character. I think don't read farther into that than you have to, but I really do think there are some very similar themes across this. And a very, similar ending, where it very, very much ends on like this, spoilers, but this romantic note of like, okay, well, we made it through. I really like The Apartment.
I really like The Apartment. I really like lovely. Shirley MacLaine's haircut in The Apartment.
Little bob.
I would never.
She's so great.
Because I could never, but if I could, I would.
Are we ever gonna finish that game of Gin Rummy? Yeah, that would probably be my hot recommendation off this. And if you like that, you love this. Probably the same things for me, if nothing else, because I'm.
I can't really. Like we were talking about earlier, American Hustle is something I maybe have seen bits and pieces of. It's been a long time. I don't know that this would pair well with that. It feels like a very different vibe. But nevertheless, same director, and typically, if you like that, you like this. So there's my little half a penny.
Good landing
Not even
spot.
2 cents.
Let's rate this movie. What do you think of this movie out of 10?
Out of 10. Did
you have it out of 5?
Is it I really didn't even have a number down, if I'm being blatantly honest. Throw your number out.
I would probably say like a 7.5.
I was thinking an 8. I really do. I love Jennifer Lawrence's performance in this movie. I love Robert De Niro's performance in this movie. I love homemates and Krabby Snacks.
Robert De Niro's performance we have not talked about a lot, but he's really, really good in this movie. He has a couple of scenes where he really gets to shine on it.
The scene where him and Pat are like literally fist fighting because of the wedding video is
and the scene when Pat comes back from the game and he's freaking
which
out
is
about
like
the
the scene that made him cry.
Yeah, it's very, very, very good stuff. But yeah, overall, this movie is great, and I do enjoy it every time I watch it, and I definitely think it's something to go back. And as far as the history of modern movies over the past 10 years, 20 years, it's definitely worth checking out.
It was something you had brought up rewatching a couple weeks ago, and then I happened to see a clip on Instagram of Jennifer Lawrence doing when we went running, the whole score monologue, I guess is the best way to put that. And I was like, damn it, time to watch that movie again.
Yes, it's time. Yeah, it's very good stuff. So I highly recommend checking this one out. I don't know where it's streaming, but I think
it's on Max. Is it on Max? Mistaken. Okay. Yeah, I just watched it, so
fairly easy to find. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for this weekly highlight of the Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh my gosh, you almost got it.
I didn't finish it. I didn't finish the word. So. We will have a lot to talk about on this weekend. For starters, I will be helping record the Jack Nicholson Hall of Fame with Isaiah Shoup, a friend of mine who runs the Mr. Rewatchability podcast this weekend. We'll be doing that on Saturday. I believe the episode will be up sometime next week. So keep an eye out for that, and I will be reposting that when it comes to the pod, or when it comes to Instagram. We also got to talk about the Oscar nominations, which I'm withholding my thoughts on here just so we can have an actual conversation about it on Sunday. But those just came out today.
Can I say one thing?
Go.
Amelia Perez got 13 13 nominations. Is that right?
I think it was some form of a record, if I believe.
13.
If I believe so.
Is correct.
I saw somebody mention that it was a kind of a record, but my math is often very off on these things. Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. We've got some other good noms in there, and we'll talk about it.
There are other nominations that I did not expect to see. Stuff that we talked about on our episode.
There were a couple things that really surprised me that were left out, and a couple things that were included that really surprised me.
I would not be remiss in saying that I think that some recent political influences have swayed a lot of those decisions.
I completely agree.
But we'll talk more about the nominations for The Characters in The Apprentice on Monday. Yeah. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll put our episode up on Monday. We'll record Sunday night, talk about some things we're going to see this weekend. We'll definitely Flight Risk. Steven Soderbergh's Presence is out this weekend in theaters. I'll definitely be checking that out. And other than that, just checking out some more stuff at home. I just got a Criterion Collection copy of Ace in the Hole.
We could probably talk about Seven a little bit.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about Seven. I just got the 4K of Seven just released. I picked that up the other day, and wowie zowie, what a movie.
Wowie zowie.
I think Maddie will like that one.
I think so too. I was watching it and I was like, dang it.
Yeah, we were watching it before we ate dinner last night. Hot recommendation: don't watch this movie before you eat dinner.
No, I did not finish.
Seven. Yeah, good times.
Gluttony.
Any old who. Agreed. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, evening. We will continue to list the 7 deadly sins, and we will return to you on Monday with our weekend roundup. See you then.
Love you, boys. Bye. And girls. Girls most of all.
Love.